welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Tinubu appoints new board management team for NDDC. APC names Wike others in campaign councils for Bayelsa, Kogi, Imo governorship polls. Plus, French Special Forces soldier killed in anti-terror operation in Iraq. Details of these stories and more in a moment. First in the news tonight is a report that President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of a new board and management team for the Niger Delta Development Commission NDDC. Presidential spokesman Ajurin Gelale made this known in a statement today. Chiedue Bie, Chairman, Delta Samuel Ogbuku, Managing Director and CEO Bayelsa Boma Iyaye, Executive Director, Finance and Admin, Rivers Victor Ntai, Executive Director, Projects Akwa Ibom, Ifedayo Abegunde, Executive Director, Corporate Services Ondo, Dimaro Denyan Bofa, State Representative Bayelsa, Abasian Dikan Nkono, State Representative Akwa Ibom, Monday Buya, State Representative Delta, Tony Okocha, State Representative Rivers, Patrick Isoweren, State Representative Edo, Kirian Ochebu, State Representative Imo, Victor Kolade, Dimba Eruba, State Representative Abia Asuo Kuokong, State Representative Cross River, Nick Wende, Zonal Representative North Central, Namdaz Abdulrazak, Zonal Representative Northeast, Ibrahim Abdullahi Gobe, Zonal Representative Northwest. And while the administration of President Bola Tinubu has revealed its 8-point agenda aimed at moving the Nigerian economy forward, including fighting corruption, protecting the rule of law, and providing security for Nigerians and businesses. The Minister for Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Wale Edun, listed the items during an interaction with journalists at the State House Abuja following the inaugural Federal Executive Council FEC meeting. Edun disclosed that the items include food security, ending poverty and economic growth, as well as job creation. According to the Finance Minister, it is around those metrics that the administration plan and targets what will be delivered in the next 3 years. In the meantime, the Federal Executive Council FEC has unfolded a 3-year economic revival plan to address the social and economic challenges affecting the country. The inaugural cabinet meeting, which was held at the council chambers of the presidential Villa Abuja, was presided over by President Bola Tinubu, who unveiled his vision for economic growth, prosperity for all, and ending poverty. Addressing the ministers, the president admonished them to achieve the first phase of its administration's 8-point agenda within 3 years. He noted that the country would rely on the experience, skills, intellect and networking of those appointed to make headway in the challenging times. Elsewhere, Vice President Kashim Shettima has charged members of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy Tax Reforms to develop a robust roadmap that will transform the economy of the country. The Vice President gave the charge today when he received an audience members of the committee led by the Chairman Taiwo Oyedele at the Presidential Villa Abuja. Shettima, who stressed the importance of fiscal policy and tax reforms, noted that it was a potent tool for resource mobilization. According to him, the committee should make recommendations that are quick deliverables in view of the nation's current economic realities. Shettima, who praised the composition of the committee, said that the composition of the committee bears testimony to the seriousness that the Tinubu-led administration attaches to its mandate. In his remarks, the special advisor to the president on revenue, Zaccheaus Adedeji, stated that the presidential committee would be interested in working with the National Economic Council (NEC), which is chaired by the vice president, to ensure effective collaboration with the sub-national governments who are a critical stakeholder group in the task before the committee. Earlier, Oyedele disclosed that members of the committee were excited for this opportunity to help the country redesign a new fiscal policy framework that is fit for the nation to thrive and deliver the Nigeria that everyone wants in order for the people to flourish in their endeavors. He assured that the committee would engage with Nigerians both at home and abroad, as well as with all segments of the society. Also, he expressed the readiness of the committee to engage with sub-national governments through the NEC in achieving the mandates of the committee.
We're here to see His Excellency the Vice President. Is that the mandate given to us by Mr. President is to help our country regarding matters of fiscal governance, which is really about how do we manage our revenue, our expenditure and debt, as well as revenue transformation beyond tax. So this is both tax and non-tax, as well as how do we facilitate economic growth so that our people can have prosperity that is inclusive. So Mr. Vice President had accepted to open our inauguration meeting, but had to represent Mr. President in South Africa, which is also a very important assignment. So we came here today to pay a courtesy visit and to give His Excellency an update about what we are doing, and more importantly, to ask for his support and guidance, particularly engaging with the sub-national government, because our assignment will be incomplete and unsuccessful without the support from the governors.
In delegation of the Presidential Committee were Kyari A. Bukar, Tayo Aduloju, Ismaila M. Zakari, Professor Biola Sani, Dr. Chinyere Almona, Abubakar Suleiman, Bamade Ogara Lawson, Taminu Yakubu, and Mohammed Nami. Away from that now, the federal government has announced today that the release of massive volumes of water from Lagdo Dam in Cameroon since August 14, 2023, which triggered fear of widespread flooding in 11 states in Nigeria, has been stopped by managers of the dam. This was announced at a press briefing in Abuja that focused on the August 2023 water releases from Lagdo Dam, as the government revealed that the spilling of water from the facility was stopped by 11 a.m. on Monday, August 28, 2023. The Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, an agency of the federal government, Clement Nze, who disclosed this to journalists, explained that in Nigeria, the month of June every year served as the beginning of a new hydrological year in the River Niger Basin. He said the River Niger Basin covered 9 countries in West and Central Africa, including Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Chad, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, Mali, Niger, and Nigeria. According to Nze, under the umbrella body of the Niger Basin Authority based in Niamey, Niger Republic, Nigeria is downstream of all the countries in this basin. In the meantime, the federal government has announced 825.819 million naira as compensation for indigents of the Federal Capital Territory FCT for the construction of the 4.2 kilometers second runway at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. The FCT Minister Nyesom Wike made the announcement today after a negotiation meeting with the Minister of Aviation Festus Keyamo. Officials of both ministries and representatives of their agencies, as well as stakeholders from JIWA, the affected community in Abuja. The 825.8 million naira, according to the ministers, to incentivize the residents to vacate the community and seek their cooperation towards the completion of the 4.2 kilometers second Abuja runway project originally awarded in 2022. Additionally, Wike declared that the FCT will construct a 5 kilometers bridge in the Tunga Madaki community and provide a modern health care facility expected to serve as a temporary resettlement site for the indigents. Furthermore, the FCT minister charged the contractors to resume work, promising that the approved fund would be released from Wednesday. Elsewhere, the officials of the Federal Capital Territory Administration (FCTA) have demolished an illegal market called Kasuwan Dai, a suspected hideout for hoodlums and drug dealers in Asokoro, Abuja. The market was located at Hassan Musa Katsina Street near Baduma 2 in Asokoro Extension, Abuja. Speaking after the demolition, the Director, Department of Development Control, Mukhtar Galadima, said that the illegal market was becoming a threat to the residents of the area and passerby. Galadima added that the area was turned into a haven for criminal activities despite relentless efforts by the FCT administration to sanitize the area. In a separate development, the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, says the completion of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is scheduled for mid-September, years after reconstruction commenced on the busy route. The minister made this statement today during a visit to the sites of completed and ongoing federal government projects in Lagos State. Reports say construction work is ongoing on the last stretch of both sides of the expressway after several missed deadlines. According to reports, the minister is also expected to inspect the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the reconstructed Apapa Oshodi Expressway, the deep sea ports, and other federal government projects on the Lagos and Ogun corridor. From the Green Chambers, the chairman of the ad hoc committee investigating job racketeering in federal ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs, Yusuf Gagdi, today summoned all the vice chancellors of federal universities to appear on Friday to give documentary evidence on the allegation made on bribery and extortion by a member of the ad hoc committee. Gagdi, who issued the notice during the resumed investigative hearing on job racketeering across over 900 MDAs, dismissed allegation on the alleged extortion of some MDAs while debunking an online report. He said that the report was unfair to tag all the 37 members of the ad hoc committee as corrupt. Gagdi maintained that the ad hoc committee will not be deterred by any form of sponsored blackmail from carrying out its statutory functions. He maintained that though he is the chairman of the committee, he was unaware of any members collecting money from MDAs, adding that the report should have indicted the member involved, not the entire committee. Away from that now, the Nigeria Customs Service (NCS) has said that there is a need to form a joint team with the Nigerian Ports Authority (NPA) in redefining export activities through the installation of trackers. The Acting Controller General of Customs (CGC), Adewale Adeniyi, said this in a statement when he hosted the Managing Director of NPA, Mohammed Bello Koko, in Abuja. He also expressed commitment to enhancing the output of designated export processing terminals. Adewale maintained that the two agencies need synergies to streamline the operations at the nation's seaports. He also sought the Controller General's support to upgrade facilities at the Korodu Lighter Terminal and to decongest Lagos ports. Meanwhile, the Managing Director of NPA assured the CGC that once Lagos ports are decongested, the facilities will attract higher patronage. He called for synergy among the various customs units to enhance the speedy passage of cleared consignments at the terminal. To judicial matters now, where the High Court sitting in Kano State has issued an interim order restraining the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC), and other anti-graft agencies from interrogating the chairman, Kano Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission, Muhuyi Rimin Gado. Rimin Gado secured the court injunction to restrict further meddling into the affairs of the state anti-graft agency, barring a last minute to have appeared before the federal anti-graft agencies. The EFCC and the Code of Conduct Bureau earlier invited Raymond Gado alongside the Director of Account in the state agency for interrogation. In a letter signed by the Deputy Director, Cybercrime and Other Related Offences, Mokhtar Bello, the EFCC invited the Kano Anti-Graft bus to produce details of its spending between 2019 and 2021. Meanwhile, the judiciary now, where the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has summoned the Inspector General of Police (IGP), officials of the Kwara State Police Command and Kwara State government following the continued detention of some traditionalists in Kwara State. Justice Akintayo Aluko ordered them to appear and show cause why the traditionalists Adebola Abdulaziz, Tanio Lorun, Efunseton, Abebi Aniwura Olorisha and other traditional worshippers should not be unconditionally released. The judge made the order while granting a motion ex parte application filed by an activist lawyer, Olukoya Ogunbeje. Others affected by the order are the registered trustees of Council of Ulama Islamic Clerics, Justice Salihu Muhammad, Executive Secretary of Council of Ulama, Sheikh Muhammad Bashir Saliu, Chief Imam of Ilorin and Chairman of Council of Ulama, Alpha Abdul Salam Baba Tonileo Kutaogidi, Kwara State Magistrates Court, Ilorin, and the Nigerian Correctional Service, Ilorin, Kwara State, listed as third to 9 respondents. Now in politics, the Board of Trustees, BOT, of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, today suspended its candidate in the February 25 presidential election, Rabiu Kwankwaso, and one other member over alleged anti-party activities. The suspension is to take effect for a period of 6 months. In the first instance, the BOT, which announced the suspension at a media briefing in Lagos, also suspended the National Working Committee, NWC, of the party. Recall that the NWC of the party on Thursday, August 24, announced the suspension of the founder of the party, Boniface Aniobonam, and the National Publicity Secretary Major. The BOT also appointed new national officers headed by Abo Major and acting national chairman, and Ogini Olaposi as acting national secretary with 18 others. Reports say the suspensions were put to a voice vote by members of the party at its special General Assembly held at the Rockview Hotels in Apapa, Lagos. Addressing newsmen at the end of the meeting in Lagos, Secretary of the BOT, Babayo Abdullahi, accused Kwankwaso of hobnobbing with President Bola Tinubu. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar and the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, LP, Peter Obi, without the board's authorization. Abdullahi announced that Kwankwaso had been stripped of the NNPP national leader status by the board. Still in politics, the All Progressives Congress APC has named the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory FCT, Nyesom Wike, as a member of the party's campaign council for the Bayelsa governorship poll. Nigeria's ruling party named the former governor of Rivers State as a member of the council when it set up campaign councils for the Bayelsa, Kogi and Imo governorship polls billed for later in the year. Wike, who has not resigned as a member of the main opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, following a fallout with the party in the lead-up to the February presidential election, was recently sworn in as a minister by President Bola Tinubu. The APC listed Gombe Governor Inuwa Yahaya as the chairman of the party's governorship campaign council in Bayelsa, with Defense Minister Abubakar Badaru, Senate President Godswill Akpabio, and Secretary to the Government of the Federation SGF, George Akume, as co-chairman. Back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Umoino has announced his administration's plan to put in place a palliative measure, one project per local government initiative, to create employment, reinvigorate the economy and increase cash flow within the rural communities. In a brief ceremony to receive the State Palliative Committee report at the Executive Council Chambers, Government House, Uyo, Governor Eno stated his willingness to surpass the recommendations of the committee for the well-being of the people. The governor tasked local government chairmen to liaise with the State Executive Council to identify peculiar areas of need to be favored by the initiative, urging the council areas to donate lands for the planned agricultural revolution by the state government. He affirmed that the committee's report at a glance was familiar and expected, with most of its recommendations already being part of his administration's Arise agenda. The governor, however, reiterated that the palliatives should be given to the poorest of the poor across party lines and to residents of the state, especially those residing in the rural communities. Earlier in his presentation, the secretary to the state government and chairman of the Palliatives Committee, Prince Enobongowa, had thanked the governor for his decision to set up a committee to work out modalities that would cushion the effects of the fuel subsidy removal on the people and ensure even distribution of the palliatives to the needy in the state, saying the gesture is commendable. A Government House correspondent Jai Noah reports that other recommendations include a 3-month financial support to civil servants, approval of 4 working days to civil servants, reduction in costs of daily tickets to transport operators, reduction in price of daily tickets for market women, payment of bursary to students, provision of free drugs for pregnant women, children and the aged, provision of buses to convey workers to and from work, opening up of economic access roads in rural areas, entrepreneurial support for business operators, intervention in primary health care delivery systems, provision of micro-health insurance scheme for civil servants, and establishment of fuel depot in the state, among others. Still to come in the news. Soybean price fall as supply fears ease. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying tuned. As we move on now to Africa, where South Africa, Russia and China have congratulated Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa following his controversial election win last week. A statement from South Africa's presidency said South Africa was conscious that the elections took place under a difficult economic environment because of sanctions against Zimbabwe. Meanwhile, the United States has added its voice to growing criticisms of last week's general election, which the opposition described as a fraud. The U.S. government said there was systemic bias against the opposition and highlighted credible reports that monitors were forced to alter some election result forms. Still in Africa, Zimbabwe's opposition party, the Citizens Coalition for Change (CCC), has called for fresh elections after declaring that last week's general election was fraudulent. Deputy CCC spokesperson Ostalo Siziba told journalists that his party would lobby the African Union and the regional body SADC to pressure the governing ZANU-PF to hold new elections and disband the Electoral Commission. However, some regional leaders, including South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, have congratulated President Emmerson Mnangagwa on his win, despite SADC election observers' preliminary assessment saying that the elections fell short of the accepted democratic standards. Meanwhile, Ethiopia's opposition politician Bekele Garba has told newsmen that he has requested the U.S. government to give him political asylum, citing worsening situations back at home. He said he has also resigned from his position as vice chair of the Oromo Federalist Congress, the main opposition party in Ethiopia's Oromia region, the home state of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Meanwhile, the former detainee accused government forces of the extrajudicial killing of inmates, mass killings and arrests. The authorities have previously denied these allegations. Ethiopian opposition politicians have long complained of a deteriorating political landscape, which the government disputes. Bekele spent 18 months in prison after being charged with crimes including terrorism and incitement to violence following the killing of singer Hachalu Hundessa. In the meantime, Ugandan police have detained 20 Eritreans for entering Uganda illegally, according to Ugandan media reports. Ugandan police announced on Monday that they had arrested the Eritrean nationals on 25th August in the eastern Uganda town of Jinja, about 140 kilometers from the border with Kenya. The individuals include 12 males, 2 females and 6 children. According to reports, the Eritreans were smuggled through Ethiopia and Kenya before entering Uganda via the Kenya-Uganda border. Local media also say that authorities believe that the Eritreans were traveling to the suburb of Kabalagala in Uganda's capital of Kampala, which has a large Eritrean and Ethiopian population. Still in Africa, the preservation of the revered tombs of the Buganda Kingdom in Uganda is no longer considered to be in danger, according to the UN's cultural organization. UNESCO has now recommended that it be taken off its list of endangered heritage sites. It says the removal would be a powerful symbol, as 50% of sites considered in danger are in Africa. Reports say the tombs of Buganda kings, which are housed in grass-thatched circular buildings on a hillside in the capital Kampala, were partly destroyed by fire in 2010. Meanwhile, the burning of the tombs sparked protests in which at least 2 people were reportedly killed. Elsewhere, fighters from the Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab have retaken at least 2 locations that had just been captured by Somalia's army during a new offensive. There are reports of both sides suffering significant losses during a fierce battle for control of Cowes Wayne. Sources at the military hospital said at least 50 wounded soldiers were brought in for treatment. President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed has pledged to defeat Al-Shabaab within months. On Friday, the army and clan militias celebrated the capture of an Al-Shabaab stronghold, El Bur. However, the recapture of a nearby village, Wapo, shows that the military is vulnerable to counterattacks in areas where the jihadists have long been entrenched. Meanwhile, fighting has flared up again in some areas in Ethiopia's restive Amhara region after a week of relative calm, with at least 10 civilian deaths reported. Residents in the Amhara city of Debre Tabor have told the newsman that fighting between local militias and government troops began over the weekend and continued until Monday morning. According to witnesses, the city's main hospital sustained damage after it was hit by heavy artillery. A doctor at the hospital told the reporters that at least 5 people who were visiting patients and more than 20 civilians who were moving near the facility were wounded. Fighting has also been reported in or around Debre Marcos and Pinote Selam towns, as well as other small towns and villages in the region. Tensions in Amhara began in April following a controversial decision to dissolve a paramilitary regional force. Since early August, a large portion of Ethiopia's second most populous region has been seeing violence. Last week, Amhara's regional council appointed a new president after Yokal Kefale, who led the region for nearly 2 years, resigned. In the meantime, close to 60,000 Kenyans who have applied for passports since March have been left in limbo after printing equipment broke down. The government has now announced that it will borrow machines from private investors to clear the backlog. According to Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration, Kithure Kindiki, the problem is not just that Kenya's current passport printing machines are outdated, but there are also corrupt agents who extort bribes from applicants. He told Parliament last week that he would carry out a cleanup of Kenya's immigration agency, and today it was announced that the daily passport printing rate would rise to 5,000. Meanwhile, in recent months, government inefficiencies have led to delays issuing identity cards, driver's licenses, birth certificates, and police clearance certificates, sparking widespread frustration and discontent among Kenyans. Elsewhere, the UN and a host of humanitarian agencies are calling on the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, to grant exemptions to the sanctions imposed on Niger in the wake of a coup, as they are threatening the health of some of the people. The UN Refugee Agency representative for Niger, Emmanuel Gignac, said there was no way to bring humanitarian aid into the country. He painted a picture of a possible worsening situation where, with electricity supplies cut by Nigeria, people are relying increasingly on generators, but that the supply of fuel could be under threat. Meanwhile, the wake of the 26th July coup, some of Niger's neighbors shut their common borders as a means to put pressure on the junta to allow a return to civilian rule. Meanwhile, in a move to end the crisis created by the coup in Niger, neighboring Algeria has proposed a 6-month period of transition to civilian rule to be overseen by a non-military person. According to Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf, most countries that he has spoken to were against the use of force as a means to end the coup. Recall that the regional bloc ECOWAS has condemned the coup, imposed sanctions on Niger, and said that military action to restore democratic rule was an option. It is not clear if Algeria's plan was developed in conjunction with Niger's junta, but the military leadership had previously talked about a 3-year transition, something that ECOWAS rejected. On the foreign scene now, President Emmanuel Macron's office today said a member of an elite French commando unit was killed in Iraq while supporting an Iraqi unit in an anti-terrorist operation. The Elysee Presidential Palace said in a statement that Sergeant Nicolas Mazier, an Air Force paratrooper, fell in combat while carrying out his mission. And while Macron expressed his condolences to Mazier's loved ones and colleagues in a message posted on the platform X, formerly known as Twitter. Still on the foreign scene, the funeral of Russian mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin, who was killed in a plane crash last week, was held privately at a cemetery on the outskirts of his hometown at St. Petersburg. Secrecy had surrounded the funeral arrangements for Prigozhin, who was killed in a plane crash on August 23, 2 months to the day since staging a mutiny in the biggest challenge to President Vladimir Putin's rule since he rose to power in 1999. Meanwhile, the Kremlin had said earlier that Putin would not attend the funeral. In the meantime, Ukrainian military says its forces have made further progress in a part of the southern front. It said the armed forces had succeeded in the Novodolin-Verbov direction and are consolidating their positions, inflicting artillery fire on the identified rival targets and conducting counter-battery operations. The military added that if successful in the Verbov area, the Ukrainians would widen a wedge of territory they have taken as they push south towards the strategic hub of Tokmak, which is occupied by the Russians. Elsewhere, a Moscow court said a prominent Russian nationalist, Igor Girkin, failed in an appeal today against his pre-trial detention on charges of inciting extremism. Girkin, also known as Strelkov, has fiercely criticized the way that Russia has conducted the war in Ukraine. He is best known in the West for having been convicted by a Dutch court over the shooting down of a Malaysian passenger plane with the loss of 298 lives over eastern Ukraine in 2014. Still on the foreign scene, a Pakistani high court has suspended former Prime Minister Imran Khan's recent conviction on corruption charges. Khan has been in prison since he was sentenced to 3 years on August 5 on charges of unlawfully selling state gifts during his tenure as Prime Minister from 2018 through 2022. As a result of the conviction, he was also barred for 5 years from contesting elections. A spokesman for Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party said the Islamabad High Court had overturned the sentence imposed by a lower court. Reports say Pakistan is due to hold a general election later this year, but the polls may be delayed by the redrawing of constituencies based on the country's latest census. In the meantime, Cyprus police has said they have arrested 21 people after violent clashes between Cypriots and migrants near the resort city of Paphos, where authorities have started removing Syrians from a condemned apartment complex. Reports say the Hazes and residents of Plorakis town. According to police, tensions flared on Sunday when a protest against the migrants escalated into splinter groups, vandalizing and damaging property belonging to the foreign residents in racially motivated attacks. Meanwhile, London's ultra-low emission zone expanded today to become the largest pollution charging scheme in the world, but prompting protests from those angry at the extra financial burden during a cost of living crisis. The city mayor Sadiq Khan is pressing ahead with the politically charged extension across Greater London, arguing it will help clean up the British capital's act. However, he has faced a fierce backlash from many living in and around the newly encompassed areas since unveiling the plans last year, with critics arguing the scheme is more concerned with raising revenue. According to reports, the contentious move also has national political implications after it was blamed for costing Khan's main opposition Labour Party victory in a by-election last month in former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's old parliamentary seat. Meanwhile, Khan had reportedly come under pressure from Labour leader Keir Starmer to stall or U-turn on the plans, but refused. And now it's time for the latest business and stock market stories. We have Blessing Dixon